So I am hearing two things. One thing he said about is a communication error. I could not communicate my expectation well. So it could be acceptance criteria, it could be the way I want to implement those acceptance criteria, the feeling I want to get after the done work is done, communication error. The another is that I gave requirement, everything was great. Now my stakeholder seems to be not interested in it, and I feel that I don't want to accept this user story. Yeah, so there are the two situations. Now let's take the first one first and then talk about the second one. The first one, how can we improve in our communication so that first one doesn't exist, or we reduce the probability of first situation?
To give the review, that is demo, sprint, during the sprint review, we invite them and show the demo.
As a product owner, I'm not talking about as a team. So as a product owner, what do you do? Because I don't want to make you a scrum master here, especially in this class. So as a product owner, what do you do so this communication error does not come up?
First thing, we have to make sure that each and every item or a story in the product backlog is understood well. Not only story here has a lot of ingredients as we spoke about. There's a certain criteria. So it's well understood by each member of the development.
So you make sure that you communicate well the intent, the value, the idea, the acceptance criteria, the testability details of your product backlog item well to your development team. Okay, what next? You did that.
Just applying that inspect and adapt. Product not to be part of some of the daily scrum meeting, just to see if the team is understood what they're working on. Just to be more proactive.
That's a great point. Frequent inspect and adapt. So, and if I combine both of these two things together, I make my best effort to communicate it well. And second, I reduce the probability of going wrong, the duration of the risk of going wrong minimized by way of frequent inspect and adapt. Maybe I communicated everything, but they understood it a little bit differently. They went ahead with what they understood. I stop in between and give them a refined information. So frequent inspect and adapt. Maybe by way of daily, frequently. The as frequent you can do can reduce the probability of first thing happening. Yeah.
I'd like to point out here that when we this frequent inspect and adapt, the danger of too much inspect and adapt is what we call micromanagement. Okay? And one of the duties of the Scrum Master is to help you and other stakeholders figure out what interactions are helpful and which ones aren't. Okay? And the trick is to provide helpful interactions and not to provide unhelpful interactions. Okay? And I think of this as learning to dance. Has anyone ever seen the movie Dirty Dancing? Yeah. Okay? You know, most guys, when I talk about it, they kind of roll their eyes and they say, well, I have a girlfriend or I have a wife, and so of course I've seen Dirty Dancing. And the girls in the room, they go, ha, 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 yes. So there is this one scene where our hero and our young, innocent heroine, they're having their first dance lesson. And she's totally nervous. And every time they try to dance, he goes left, she goes right, they're stepping at each other's feet, and they're getting really, really frustrated. And finally, I have to get up, you know, they're getting really, really frustrated, and finally he says, enough. This is my frame, this is your frame. I stay in my frame, you stay in your frame. Okay? And then they danced very slowly, you know, the basic steps, learning the rules of the game. Okay? Over the course of the summer, what happened? They learned to dance together. By the end of the summer, they were doing things that you would have thought impossible at the beginning of the summer. And as an outside observer, you don't notice the frames anymore. Okay? And strictly speaking, they've learned to, you know, kind of bend the rules on the frames because they're doing things that you can't do in these stiff frames. But they still have those frames as a reference. So what you're learning to do, you're learning how to dance with your team. You're learning how to work together effectively. And so you start with these frames, you respect the frames, and then you want to start growing together. And so you're going to make lots of little inspections and adaptions. Okay? And, you know, so that you can do great things together.
Great point. Yeah. The second dimension, everything is went as per your expectation, but since stakeholders have changed their mind, you don't want to accept it. Should product owner do that?
Not just that, even market situations change, so I need a new feature just to stay one up on the competitors. Maybe.
Yeah, true. So you need to change the feature. That's true. But do you accept the feature and says let's change it or remove it, or do you say that I don't want to accept it?
Not really. If it is not needed by a customer, stakeholder or customer, accept it because it was properly defined, and then it's meeting the acceptance criteria. So accept it, don't just leave it.
Okay.
Whatever that is.
Add the new item to the product backlog once
Yeah,
again.
we add the new
So,
item to product backlog.
Let's see the view.
But yeah, story may not be required anymore.
True. Let's see a view. There was a story I gave to you, to you as a development team. You did your best. We communicated well. You came up with me, and I says, it's not needed. Let's not. I don't want to accept it. Now, who is becoming accountable for developing that story at this particular moment? Am I taking a shortcut that I end up doing a wrong judgment and end up giving something wrong which was not needed in the market? Maybe I have learned something, but rather than owning my learning myself, I just want to say that it's not needed, let's not put into a done, and that's it.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it.
You should still probably thank the team for doing the work.
The second option is, yes, this
Accept it.
was our judgment, this was my judgment, I gave it to you, I accept it,
Yeah.
and I also accept that I have learned something new, I am not going to put it into a product.
Some value, no? And there is
Value.
honesty and
Honesty.
transparency.
Now,
You have to know that.
Honesty.
So the second scenario, how as a development team you feel in a second scenario?
Yeah, it's more trusted.
The frames are clear, the
Yeah.
frames are said that yes, we are not saying that whatever you have developed, you must push to the
You need
customer.
Trust to the
Yeah, you-
trust to the trust.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, so I'd like to ask a question here. And I was listening to this, the product owner says I don't want it anymore because the stakeholders don't want it. So the first question is, whose job is it to maximize the value of the work done by the team?
Product.
Product owner.
Yeah.
So if as product owner, you give work to your team, spend a significant amount of money developing that work, and 2 weeks later you decide that you don't want it anymore, who's not doing your job? Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so, the question that I was asking as I heard this, what does it mean to not accept the work done by the team? Because the team did the work. You specified, you defined the story, you explained why you want it, you explained how to accept it. The team went off, did its best to accept it according to what you asked for. What does it mean to not accept it? Are you saying you don't want to pay for it? You're trying to push back, push the cost back to your development team? Sorry, that's not how collaboration works. Okay, so, what we're trying to do is say, we want to collaborate together effectively. Now notice, let's say something happens during the sprint and you realize that you asked for something that you don't want anymore. Scrum should never be an excuse for doing something stupid. So if as soon as you realize that you don't need the feature anymore, tell the team to stop then. Don't wait till the end of the sprint. Okay? They can still use the capacity for something more effective.